The EPA is again raising objections to the Keystone XL pipeline project, which would crisscross America's heartland, carrying oil from Canada all the way to the Texas Gulf Coast region. In a letter to the State Department, the EPA says the State Department's study of the proposed pipeline, which took more than 4 years to complete, contains, quote, insufficient information, and went on to urge State Department officials, to conduct a more thorough analysis of oil spill risks and alternative pipeline routes, as well as consider the greenhouse gas emissions that would be associated with the Keystone XL pipeline. The EPA raised similar concerns with the State Department's handling of the project back in 2011. So just how good a job is the State Department doing at assessing the risks and threats posed by the Keystone XL pipeline? Joining me now for more on that is Anthony Swift, attorney and Keystone pipeline expert with the National Resource Defense Council. Anthony, welcome back.
It's good to be back, Tom.
Great to have you with us, Anthony. First of all, why is the State Department in charge of the Keystone XL pipeline? I thought they did things like negotiate with foreign countries.
It's a really good question, and it's certainly not an area of the State Department's expertise. This is a fact. The State Department's ownership of this project has to do with the fact that it crosses an international border.
Oh, it's Canadian. It's not even oil, actually. It's got an exemption because it's so toxic. They don't have to pay into the oil spill fund.
That's exactly right. It would carry something called tar sands, which we found seems to have a harder time moving through pipes, and when spilled, causes significantly more damage.
Right, right. So my understanding is that the comment period, the State Department's comment period on the pipeline closed yesterday. Is that true?
That is true. And
so what happened? What were the comments like? Has there been any quantification or
Well, the American public sent over 1 million comments in opposition of the pipeline. So that shows how deep the opposition to the pipeline is.
How many were in favor of it?
It's hard to say. They're not. I know that some of the folks at API have been pushing for comments, but they haven't told how many went in favor.
Koch brothers sent one. ExxonMobil sent one.
Something like that.
Okay. Why the insufficient review by the State Department? I read a piece a while back that suggested that one of the contractors even that the State Department hired to do some of this review had enormous conflicts of interest. Is that the case? And if so, why wasn't that caught? Why, and is this, well, answer those first.
I should say there was, environmental groups are already pressing to the State Department Investigator General to look at the process this time around and see if there were conflicts of interest with the new contractor that did the review. But what we know is from EPA, which has expertise on these issues, the environmental review wasn't up to snuff, and the EPA also found that Keystone XL was a project with significant environmental impacts, in stark contrast with the State Department's finding.
Yeah, okay. So now, this, in the setup I talked about, these problems that have been identified and various groups saying, hey, wait a minute, stop, pause, take a look. Will there be a reevaluation? Will there be a new study? Is there going to be any slowing down? We had Daryl Hannah on the show a couple weeks ago, along with a woman down in Texas who was trying to stop a bulldozer that, they literally cut a hole through the middle of her farm by eminent domain. Is any of that slowing down? What's the status?
Well, they are building the southern route as we speak. So this is all focused on really connecting that route to the tar sands in Canada, this route going from Montana to Nebraska. But frankly, we're hopeful that there will be a slowing down. The EPA's comments the importance of those comments can't be overstated. EPA has a huge role in this process. And to some extent, both Secretary Kerry and President Obama have noted the importance of addressing climate change and running a good process.
Right.
So we're hopeful that these comments are going to cause political pressure to reevaluate the real impacts of this project.
Most of this has been funded by a Canadian corporation, right? Keystone, Keystone Corporation, TransCanada. Corporation. They have presumably spent billions of dollars on this. Will they have an action at NAFTA against us or the states if this gets turned down? What's the consequence of saying no to this?
Well, it's part of the U.S. The U.S. has the sovereign authority to determine whether and where it wants projects like pipelines. And it's important to note, if Keystone XL were approved, that would grant, TransCanada the authority to take property by eminent domain. So this is an issue that, you know, TransCanada doesn't have an inherent right to build a pipeline through the American heartland. And,
Right. Even under NAFTA and Chapter 11 and everything
That's
else.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.